This is the Self-Taught or Not podcast with
Dylan Israel
and Eric Hanchett, where we teach you the do's and don'ts of software development from two software development professionals, one self-taught and one not. Hey, everybody. This is another episode of Self-Taught or Not, and this is going to be a very fun episode because we are going to talk about goals in 2021. So this is, right now we are recording this about, I don't know, a couple of weeks out from Christmas. So if you're listening to this now, it's probably a little bit later than that. But I thought it'd be fun still to talk about our goals for 2021 and, you know, what we want to do. I've always been the person that have created goals. I don't know about you, Dylan. Like, I remember when I was a kid, I would always write down goals, and sometimes it would help and sometimes it wouldn't help. But it always is like a good thing, I think, in your career to just write down, physically write down, well, not physically, but, you know, virtually, whatever, just write down the goal somewhere. So to remind you of where you want to go, because if you don't, then, you know, it's going to be harder to hit it.
Yeah, definitely. I remember being early in high school and carrying around a little pocket notebook in my front pocket, and I'd write down to-do list type items, and really they were just sort of small goals. I think it'd be cool to maybe talk about some of what we accomplished in this year and maybe whether they lined up with our goals as well.
Yes, that's a great idea. Let's start with that. Let's talk about 2020 in general, and then we'll kind of jump around between that and then we'll go into our goals for 2021. So yeah, go ahead and start. I mean, how 2020, I have some thoughts on 2020, but I want to hear your thoughts first. What did you accomplish? What do you think? How did it go?
Yeah, so this year was rough for me. I had a little bit of some mental health issues and whatnot, and I felt like I didn't accomplish as much as I wanted to. But I'm looking back over some of the items I put on my LinkedIn. So anytime I complete a cool project or I have something, I go to LinkedIn, and in the publication section, I add it and, keep track of it that way. And this year, I started trying to do more sort of conference-y sort of talks, and I started doing more podcast talks. And so the first thing that was kind of cool was I applied to speak to the Lambda Inspire talks. And so I talked with a bunch of Lambda school students about, becoming a software engineer and sort of my journey. And I really enjoyed that.
Was that a podcast talk? I mean, what do you mean by podcast talks? Was that a physical in-person talk?
This was, COVID? Yeah. So this, not in person. No, it's one of these, sort of Zoom meetings, and then at the end you do a Q&A with a bunch of Lambda school students, and they sort of have a generalized structure that funnels it to you, and it was just a lot of fun, man. I mean, I think there's only maybe 50 people in there, but that was something that sort of a small goal where I always try to make myself available to the community, and it's always good to try and set aspiring engineers on the right path, or at least what I think the right path is.
Yeah, definitely. That's one of my things in 2020 was also to I couldn't find my notes on what I wanted to accomplish in 2020. Unfortunately, I think we actually didn't record an episode for last year. We should have. But I think in 2020, one of the things I wanted to do was to go out and do a conference talk. And obviously that didn't happen. Especially with COVID. I actually have a virtual conference talk set up in February of next year. So I think I'm going to finally hit that goal of talking at a conference, even though it's virtual. But so I also went on a couple of podcasts. So I felt like that was sort of what I wanted to accomplish by getting out there and helping more people and doing a conference talk. I did one called a View podcast, and another one that hasn't aired yet, so I don't want to mention the name until it's aired. Probably by the time this comes out, it will have been aired. But it was kind of fun jumping onto these different podcasts and talking to people. I'll tell one I did in, I think it was October or maybe July. It was the Learn to Code with Me podcast. It was really fun to talk and talk about my career, my progression, and things like that. What else do you got for 2020 that you want to talk about?
Yeah. So towards the end of 2019, I did my first conference talk, and I met a couple of really cool people. And one was Lee from the Tech Junior podcast. So I went over there and hopped on their podcast as well. I did another interview with Pop Art Studio, which was kind of fun because they were sort of nerding out because they were fans. And they're a web design shop that wanted to do a blog about me for their for their platform. Career Karma did a blog for top 50 coding channels of 2020. I made that. That was kind of cool. What else did happen here? Got on a list of the 100 best engineers, developer, coders, and entrepreneurs that someone put. And what was really funny about that to me was I share a lot of this stuff on like Facebook and whatnot because it's cool. This was the first time I've shared something that like my parents discussed or people in my work discussed, and they were like, and I didn't think it was that big of a deal, but they were like sort of nerding out about it as well.
That's really cool. Yeah, those are awesome that you got focused or highlighted in a lot of those articles and stuff. I think another one of my goals for 2020 was to focus more on YouTube. So I was able to definitely 2020. I will say this overall for my 2020 was pretty good. Like I mean, all things considering, obviously the economy went to crap and a lot of people lost their jobs. A lot of developers lost their jobs too. I actually knew a couple of people in the development space that lost their job. And it was really like crazy, like hearing about these people that I knew and I thought that was going to be doing these jobs forever, kind of left. Chris Sean did. He has his own podcast and YouTube channel. He lost his job at, I think it was like Entrepreneur Magazine, which I was like, whoa. And he ended up getting another job and moving halfway across the country. So I don't want to downplay, what a lot of people went through, but for me personally, like I had a really good year considering my YouTube channel, which is a nice fun side project of mine, like doubled the number of views. The watch time did really well. I was able to create a few courses, which is I hadn't created a course since 2018. So finally getting back into like creating courses, serving people, and literally hundreds of people have taken the courses, and it was a pretty good income coming in from those little side courses. I mean, one little downfall was right at the beginning of COVID in March, when all the kids went to online school. It was a little bit of adjustment for me and my wife, Susan. So we had to kind of work together. I was already working from home because my company pretty much in February, just like every other company, sent everybody at home to work. Well, a lot of technology companies, that is. And so we were trying to, like, I have like this little upstairs office that's open. So I'm having kids run by. My wife's trying to get the kids on Zoom and trying to teach them. It was a mess. It was really, really hard and stressful a little bit on our marriage too at the beginning. So that wasn't fun. But I think by the time summer rolled around and the kids went back to school, we definitely got our groove on with me working from home. My wife is a stay-at-home mom, but she also does some side projects and things like that. So she was working too, and we actually were able to find a good groove between all of that. So I would say 2020 was good. I guess it wasn't great. I mean, definitely with everything considering, but it was a pretty good year. It definitely outperformed 2019. I thought 2019, at least for me, was not as productive. Like I didn't have as much momentum. I didn't release any courses, didn't write any books. 2019 was kind of a stall, but I thought 2020 was much better.
Yeah, I was pleasantly surprised to see how much like little side projects I did. So far I've talked a little bit about just sort of some of these small, like, oh hey, I went on a podcast or someone wrote a blog about something or another. But I did a lot of stuff for Scrimba this year, and I didn't really realize it till we started gathering our thoughts. I did a 7-day JavaScript email series with them that did so good. They say, hey, we want to do a new one with the 10-day JavaScript email series. I also worked on their front-end developer career path when they launched their pro version. And as in about 2 weeks from now, the clean code course I did for them, as well as the clean JavaScript excuse me, not clean JavaScript, introduction to unit testing, and the 24 days of JavaScriptmas will all be things that I've done for just Scrimba alone. And so I'm really ramping up on stuff like that, and that's going to lead into the next year as well.
Did you mention your LinkedIn Learning course that came out this year, right? Too in 2020, right?
Yeah. So I launched a course with the first time I've done a course with LinkedIn Learning, object-oriented programming in TypeScript. That was a experience in its own right, and a good one at that. Just different. It's very different when you're working with like, versus building your own course versus working with Scrimba or working with like a very established organization like LinkedIn and Microsoft, right? But did that, as well as the 100 Angular Challenge, which was my own course that I built out. And so, I guess those are my major accomplishments for 2020. And like, I'm pretty happy with that, considering I essentially had a mental breakdown in the middle of the year. So, I mean, I guess also, if we want to talk, it's kind of weird to say a job is an accomplishment, but, going to Amazon in the end of 2020 and sort of hitting that FANG job goal that's sort of always been lurking in the background.
For those who are listening for the first time, they don't know about the mental breakdown. I know you're kind of exaggerating a little bit, but can you just talk just a little bit about that for people who may not know?
Yeah. I mean, that's very nice of you to say I'm exaggerating. I'm sorry about the dogs. Ever since I've been in my office downstairs, I love barking out the window. But yeah, basically just my relationship ended, and then I powered through and burnt myself out, and learning and trying to figure out who I am as a single individual rather than as someone in a relationship. And it's just been a rough year. Something I'm still going through, but a lot of these items that we talked about were things that were done earlier in the year. So much so that like had to stop doing the podcast, had to stop building courses, had to stop the YouTube channel. And I'm, as we're recording now, slowly ramping back up at different paces and whatnot. But it's been a very mentally difficult year for me.
Yeah, and I remember like part of it right afterwards, you were definitely trying to just power through everything, double down on YouTube, double down on podcasts. And I think at one point you're like, nah, I can't do all this. I got to take a break. And I think, and I was like, I was like, come on, let's keep doing it. But I understand now that, yeah, you definitely needed that break, and it's important for your mental health. And I'm glad you're just slowly getting back into it, not going crazy right now, not trying to do 10 YouTube videos a week and do that and do all that crazy stuff. So that's it. That's one thing we don't talk about much on this episode is mental health. I think we've kind of talked about it a little bit, but being a developer is difficult. I mean, I don't want to sidetrack this episode too much, but I mean, we're all human beings, and we all go through, life changes. And when life changes happen, we're like everybody else. We need help. We need to take breaks. We get burnt out. It's good to remind everybody who's listening that happens to us too. I know it certainly has happened to me. Let's keep going with this theme of 2020. Is there anything in 2020 before we jump into 2021 you think beyond the craziness that we just talked about that you think you missed on? Was there like something that you remember thinking 2020 was going to be your year and you didn't finish it? And then I'll I think I have one or two.
Yeah, man. I thought I was going to be living in Dallas with April. So I thought, dude, I thought I was 3 months away from planning a move and getting married and all that sort of stuff. So that didn't happen. But besides that, I think maybe, one thing I was pleasantly surprised by that did happen was, as I've taken this break focusing on my physical health, and I'm actually in some of the best shape of my adult life. And so that's been very, very good and very healthy for me. I'm trying to think what else didn't happen. I don't know, man. This year, I just want to forget it. Like, I'll be honest with you. Like, Like I saw a meme the other day of like historians will be like in 2019, 2017 this happened, 2018 this happened, 2019 this happened, 2021 happened. And then like a student race, what happened in 2020? We don't talk about that one. Like
Exactly. Yeah. I think there was a few times like that for me too. 2020, I think, was going to be the year that I was going to maybe pick up another book. I was really close to signing another deal with Manning to write another edition of my View book, and I kind of decided against it in the middle of the year. So that was something that didn't happen. That probably could have happened. I was definitely more 2020 2020 was going to be a more of a year where I branched back out to do more writing on my blog, and that's something that definitely didn't happen. So yeah, there was a few misses, like just side project professionally wise, where I just didn't hit it. I think mostly my like professional life, though everything I hit most of my goals, but there's definitely some things that I missed. All right, so let's move on to our goals for 2021. So I think this will be fun, and this will be cool because what we'll do is we'll look back on this next year at the end of 2021 to see how far we got, and we'll talk about it. So I'll go first, and maybe we can just switch off back and forth on our goals. So one big goal of mine for 2021 is to keep growing in my job. I don't talk about my job much on this podcast. I do love it a lot. I like all my coworkers, and it's fun. But I just want to keep learning more technologies. I want to kind of expand what I'm doing. I'll try to understand everything from the full life cycle of a product, from the time the product managers come to me for a new requirement or a new feature to the point it goes out the door. I kind of want to understand a little bit more of how DevOps works, because I kind of want to just keep learning through that. I like the leadership aspect. I'm finally getting to flex my leadership muscles a little bit more at my job, which has been awesome lately because I've been more of doing more team lead stuff, which has been great. So I just want to keep growing professionally, and that's my first goal. And then these goals are not in any sort of order. They're just in an order. They're not from most important to least important or anything like that.
Yeah, and I think that's a similar goal to my own, especially as I'm starting the year essentially with a new organization, and one of my major hopes is to be surrounded by some very skilled software engineers that can I can leech their knowledge and hopefully not only become a better developer but progress my career. And I think sometimes from the questions that I get from developers and like the AMAs is like, how what's your exit plan, and how you not hate this shit already. Sometimes they go, and I think where a lot of people struggle with being sort of at the software engineers and senior software engineers is that they don't feel like they're progressing, and thus they feel like they're doing the same thing again and again and again and again. And I could see how you would want to figure out an exit plan when you're sort of stuck in this career purgatory. So my hope is that a lot of people will continue to progress and maybe they'll find more enjoyment in their careers.
I think I read somewhere that there's this lot of talk online right now, because at least in a few forums that I've been reading about how competitive it is to get into software development. I think we've talked about this before, where junior spots are filling up quickly because we have tons of people coming out of coding boot camps. We have lots of even college kids. There's still CS is a popular degree, not as popular as English, but there's still a lot of computer science kids coming out of schools, and then there's just this huge amount of people, self-taught developers, and so a junior developer position, it's being swamped by hundreds of people trying to get in. And what I'm trying to say is that since that is becoming really, really competitive, what I'm seeing is that people are having a hard time getting into these positions. But there was conversations about like, well, is the computer science field as competitive as we really think? And I was seeing some stats that after you get into being a software developer, a lot of software developers move out of this position after 10 years. Like they move into management, or they change careers, or they go into a different part of the organization. So though we have a lot of junior developers in trying to get in, there's a lot of people leaving later in their careers. So it leads to this weird gap where there's, for every junior developer position, there's 150 applicants, but for every mid-level or senior level, it's a lot more easier to get up to those levels because a lot of people are leaving the industry. There's just a lot less people getting to those levels as well.
Yeah, and it's I don't know, man. Another one of my goals is about giving more conference talks, and I'll be doing one with the knack.io virtual one in I guess March, I think it is. And all the talks I want to give are now soft skill based. There's so much technical ones out there, and I'm sure I could provide some value, but the stress and anxiety and sort of depression and, imposter syndrome, like this is some real stuff that our colleagues suffer from. And it's, I don't know. I imagine that plays a large part of going into management or leaving to go in different careers or start their own thing eventually.
Yeah, maybe that's part of it, why people are leaving, why the senior medium level developers leaving, because of that soft skills. They're lacking the soft skills, or they don't understand how to behave in some of these environments. By the way, I was just reading a tweet by Emma Bostian. She just put out, although we're writing code for computers, that code impacts humans. She was basically saying that can we get rid of the term soft skills? Can we call them human skills? Soft skills are not nice to have quality. They're imperative. If you don't work on your soft skills, your code and your product will suffer. I think that's kind of funny. Do you think we should call it human skills?
I don't know, man. That seems like I got better things. You know what I mean? Like, you know what? Let's just work on communication, and who cares what we call it? Let's just do better, right? Like, if us calling it human skills versus soft skills will mean that we're going to lower people's depression and anxiety, by all means. We can call them super fluffy, lovable skills for all I care, if that's going to help people.
We should do an episode on like soft skills versus tech skills. It seems to be like a growing consensus that soft skills is the absolutely most important thing. But I'm always like,
yeah. Have you ever been tested on your soft skills, or have you been eliminated? Like, yeah, I don't know, man. Like, maybe it's because I haven't suffered with this, at least in corporate America. I think I do rather good on those parts of the interview, especially like guys like us who talk for like a living in a degree. And so like we're just here sharing our thoughts. But I mean, there's plenty of people who are so introverted and awkward that they are failing things that maybe I consider just to be natural.
Yeah, I guess that's part. I will say I am definitely, when I get into interviews, I feel still like the soft skills part where we're just kind of shooting the shit and just talking about different things that I'm interested in, or they'll give me some crazy scenario. I feel like I'm still not great at those. I feel like I could probably do better because sometimes I get in that very analytical mindset where I'm like, okay, let me try to logically go through this problem that you told me, and it's more about like they're just trying to assess like, would I really want to work with this guy? So I feel like maybe some people listening can relate. I feel like sometimes I need some help on the soft skills, but I feel like I could spend some research on how to answer interview questions, those soft skill interview questions, or maybe like you said, you're doing a whole presentation on it, and I could definitely like nail one of those soft skill interviews while I can spend an hour grinding away at LeetCode, and I won't even be close to being able to answer a LeetCode question because there's so many different types of them. I don't know. I think we're getting a little bit of a tangent here, but I think they're equally important, but I think one's a lot harder to study for. Maybe that's my quick answer right now. All right, so okay, 2021 goals. Let me get back to my spreadsheet because I haven't listed. So I'll list another goal that I have. So I want to continue with my little bit of my side hustle outside my 9-to-5 job. So I love to keep teaching people on YouTube. I had a really good year in 2020. I don't think I'm going to have that good of a year in 2021. I mean, I'd love to if I could. I literally almost doubled the amount of views and watch time in 2020 compared to I had from 2019. But if I could just continue to grow it, maybe 20, 30%, just increase the number of views, watch times every month. One thing I really want to do is I want to mix up my YouTube videos. It is a grind, let me tell you. It's a grind coming up with 2-3 videos a week, every single week. And I've done it for like multiple years now, as Dylan has too for a while before he took his break. So it is kind of a grind on me. And I want to try to go back to the time where it was fun. For me, it's definitely becoming less fun to the point where it's not fun at all. And I'm dreading doing it some days. So I want to try to figure out like ways to make my YouTube videos more fun. So if it's just setting up a camera one day and knocking out 4 videos in one day, so that way I can relax the rest of the week and or the next 2 weeks or something like that. That's the way to do it. If I want to switch to 1 video a week, maybe for a while, I might do that, or just do videos not related to like teaching a concept, like doing a screencast. So the screencasts seem to take the most time and they're the most stressful for me. So maybe doing more fun soft skill topics or just talking in front of the camera. And then also I have a camcorder that I bought last year, a Canon M50, and I'm like, why don't I ever use this? So I'm trying to get a tripod for it, maybe do like some fun outdoor. I think you did this, Dylan, for a while. You just took your phone and you just went outside and just did a little fun videos like that. And I want to see like maybe change up the editing too. I have a buddy that does editing, and he's offered many times to do editing for my YouTube channel. So maybe I spend a couple $100 a month to have someone edit a few of my videos. So I'm just trying to think of like ways to make it more fun, and so I can keep doing it instead of feeling like this existential dread, like, oh, I got to do this.
Yeah, it's I completely understand that. And like, even as I was talking, these sponsors, they reach out to me. And normally I like to take sponsors, but like, I don't even have anything like I can put on the channel right now. Like, there's very few things that I'm like, hey, I want to put a video about. And so like, what am I just going to throw out sponsored videos one after another after another? I don't know. It's difficult to sort of, and it's so cliche, but like this sort of writer's block to a degree of like I don't even know what I want to talk about anymore, man, or like what I want to do, or so on and so forth. But I think a good combination is switching things up and then figuring out what's next by expanding your mind a little bit. So like the soft skill stuff kind of came about by me reading books and on soft skills and about like communication and things like that, and sort of seeing how I could better apply that to my professional life.
Yeah, I mean that works too. Yeah, it seems like I would think if anything else, you would be really good at doing more soft skill type videos and soft skill podcasts and things like that. Sort of this whole podcast is a lot of soft skills. We tried doing a few technical episodes, and we did a few, and we might do a few more in the future, but I think we're going to focus on these fun topics like these that are not easier, but they're just different to talk about, I suppose. I will say, you mentioned sponsors for a second, that's one thing too that I'm really looking hard at. I used to have the policy of just like pretty much anybody that messaged me that wanted me to be a sponsor, I would make sure at least like it made sense. And then if it made sense for my audience and I thought it was good, but most of them like were products that weren't bad, so I would go ahead and do it. And now I'm trying to really hone down on who I want to work with. So saying no to more sponsorships, to more like dedicated videos, I've really cut down. I used to do a lot of them, but now I'm like, unless you pay me a good amount of money and I really love the product, I'm not going to do it. So that's another thing I'm trying to do, is just less of that. And I'll continue on with another part of my goal here. It's all part of the side hustle, was to do. This year in 2020, I did 5 or probably 6 different launches on sales of different products I created, and I created 2 new courses. So that was a lot of work. And then I did 2 6-week programs almost back to back. So that was a tremendous amount of work of creating these courses, working with these people every single week, which was awesome. I loved doing it, but I thought it was just a little too much. And then even at the end of this year, I did 2 product launches, and I did some cheaper courses. I did my new Vue 3 course, which I'm really proud of, and I also put together a kind of repackaged another one of my other products. But what I'm finding is that this constant like opening and closing carts and constantly selling is also a little bit of a treadmill. Kind of reminds me of YouTube. So I want to do fewer amount of courses next year, but for a higher price point. So instead of doing every other week like a sale for a $20 course, I want to maybe have a $300 course that I sell like 3 times a year. And then and then also have a lot of one-on-one time with people going through the course. So I can really help them out, having group calls. So that's kind of my goal. Less product launches, more just focusing on individuals. A little bit higher price points, not going to be for everyone, unfortunately, but that would be way better my style.
Yeah, and it's I even have trouble sending those promotional emails on occasion, just going around typing that up. And I think the thing that I'm adjusting in the sort of 2021 year is I'm looking for projects that have ends. And so one thing that's been really stressful about YouTube, and even the podcast to a degree, but we're sort of tackling it with a season-based approach, is it's like the same reason I don't play League of Legends or Call of Duty anymore. That, like, you can always hop into a new game, and so before you know it, you've been doing the same thing for years upon years, and it's more of a job than fun. And like these projects, yeah, there's a financial aspect and like a career aspect, but they're supposed to also be fun. Like, I enjoy doing these things, and at some point, the fact that I felt like I had to do it every week and that it was never going to end, I was just going to do YouTube till the day I died. Didn't there's something about that that's just not very appealing. And so moving forward in this year, I'm really looking for something I'll spend 2 months to do or 3 months to do or even a year, but at a year it's over.
Yeah, having that end date is really nice. And we'll be open here. I think you for a while may have thought this podcast was a lot of work, and not having an end was probably not making this not as quite as appealing for you for a little while.
Yeah. I mean, nothing was all that appealing at certain points this year, to be honest.
What other goals do you have? Do you have any specific goals to something that might take a year, 6 months, month?
Yeah, it's if I was to really say like what the one major goal I have, other than like I want to keep building some of these courses for Scrimba because I'm very excited by their platform and the royalty program and all that. But this is the year. I'm saying it right now. There's one goal I have above all else, and it's to finish my book. This is the year that's happening. So that is the the Mac Daddy goal of 2021.
All right, let's talk about that a little bit more. So you've talked about this book a few times on this podcast. So what is the holdup? Like, how far are you in? What do you need to finish before it's done?
Yeah, so I have 100 topics I'd like to cover, and I've written about 10. And I did a live stream the other day, just free writing for like 2 hours. I knocked out 2 chapters. And so what I think I'm going to do is I'm going to keep doing these sort of live streams, and from there go and figure out, like, just go and free write it, keep it fun, because the hardest part about writing is just sitting down and doing it. That's it. And so my hope is that I can go, I'll sit down, I'll have some fun doing some of these live streams, and I'll get some ideas. I got some ideas for chapters as well. So that's the goal.
Sounds like you're knocking out 2 birds with 1 stone by doing that, I guess. So you can get a little bit more YouTube, although you're probably deleting those YouTube videos, I'm guessing.
Yeah.
After a day or 2. But at least you're getting some activity on your YouTube channel that I know you want to connect with those people. That's cool. Yeah, I'm really excited. Hopefully, I know you've been saying for a couple of years now you really want to finish this book. So I'm going to hold you to that. See how far you get to this book by the end of the year. And are you going to do a big launch? Are you going to have a course along with it, or is it just going to be like $20 book that you're going to sell, or $10 book or something?
We'll figure that out. I'm not 100% sure quite yet, but When the time comes, we'll figure all that out.
Yeah, you don't have to figure it out right this second. That's another whole other problem you'll have to deal with, how you want to market that book
Mhm.
and how you want to sell it. And sounds like cool. By the way, this is definitely the year of books. I've seen a whole lot of people, a lot of YouTubers selling courses, books, a lot of people selling different books. And that's great. Like a lot of people are doing that. I think books, I know you're not doing this for this reason, but I think a lot of developers, when they're thinking about the first side project, and I was like this too, is like, why don't I write a book? I went the traditional route and found a publisher, and I know we've talked about the pros and cons of doing that, but everybody's like, let's write a book, and it's sort of like so hard to write a book when it comes down to it, because it is just uh it just takes hours upon hours to write a book. I mean, it could take 100 hours, and then to edit that book and to get into the right formats, and to edit I said that twice, but it just takes a long, long, long time. And usually, you can't sell books for a ton of money. And I know you're a little different, Dylan, because you have a bigger audience. So it's interesting. I just keep on seeing that trend, and which is great.
Yeah, it's a grind. I think I've never heard of anyone that's written a book be like, yeah, knocked that shit out last weekend. Like it's one of those items there. It's just it's a painful long experience.
I'll go on with another goal. I think. Do you have any more goals for this 2020 you want to talk about? I may
No,
have just
no,
knocked out my
I'm
last one.
keeping it really simple this year.
Okay. All right. So I have a couple more. So one thing I definitely want to do in 2021 is to work with my kids. So I have an 8-year-old and 10-year-old, and they're just at that age where they know how to use the computer. I mean, they know they've been using like iPads since they were 3, but like to really get into the computer and work it, they're starting to get to that age where they know it pretty well. But one thing that I've been trying to do, and I kind of started this last year and the year before, is to try to teach them some fundamentals of programming and how to program. And I found the biggest issue was like them typing, because they are so used to their iPads and they only get limited time every week in their classes at their school to be on a computer with an actual keyboard. So they were having really difficult time typing. And if you're trying to teach someone how to program and they can't even type anything, like they're literally hunting and pecking on the keyboard for every single letter, it's gonna be really hard to teach them how to program. And so my daughter has now gotten quite a bit better at typing since I tried to teach her like a year or two ago. So I'm hoping to spend some time with her and just try out some like basic programming. There's a I've actually, when I was researching this a couple of years ago, there's just a ton of different platforms to teach kids how to program. I actually used this one through Disney. It was like a Disney programming game, which was really fun, and I'm hoping I can still use it. I actually got the publisher to give me a free copy of it, which like you teach them how to create loops and to create different objects on the screen, and there's like battles, and it's like an RPG. So she liked that, though she still had problems typing. So I'm really hoping to just take maybe once a week with my daughter to teach her how to program, and then also just start trying to get my son more into it too. He is definitely into Minecraft and different video games. He's doesn't have the same uh, interest in programming that his sister does. So I'm going to just see how that goes.
Yeah, I know we've talked a lot about career goals and software goals, but probably my number one goal is to meet somebody. I tend to like to be in relationships, and I hate dating, man. Dating makes me want to just end myself. I hate it's so awful. It's so awful. Um,
I
so
thought I thought I remember fondly back when I was dating. It's
no,
like
you
that
don't.
that little
It's
bit
just
anticipation in the back of your head of like, oh, they're gonna like me, not like me. We didn't have Tinder back then. We couldn't just swipe right on everybody that we liked.
dude.
We had to like meet people at bars and had OK Cupid, which sucked back then.
Dude, it's miserable, man. And like, you know what, man? I think like I'm a normal enough guy. I got my shit together, and it's just like you meet people who are just like, oh, they're they think you have your shit together too much, so you're not going to be any fun, and then or they're intimidated by the fact that you have your stuff together and they're still figuring it out. It's been miserable. So if there's one thing in 2021 I'm looking to do, it's to meet the love of my life and to get out of this dating world. I don't want any piece of it, man.
Yeah, just don't settle for someone just because you want to get out of that feeling. You should do a developer.
Listen, I'm ready to settle, Eric. I'm ready to settle, and then we can be back here have this conversation 2 years down the road. All right, that's all. We'll be 2025 year dating goals.
I'm calling it. 2 years from now, there's gonna be a little Dylan running around.
I mean, if for the right girl, come on down. Come on down.
So if you're listening right now to this podcast and you are
no
a female
women that listen to this podcast. I mean, statistically,
message me.
Please
leave a comment.
Slide into my DMs.
I'm at EricCH. That's my Twitter handle. My DMs are open.
Eric, you don't
want to forward them off to Dylan.
Single women messaging you. That's not a good look.
Maybe my wife wouldn't like it.
Yeah, that's not a good look, man. I'm just saying. You can just come directly to the source. I'm a nice guy. All right.
Okay.
Take my word for it.
You look for Dylan Israel, all the social platforms. I'm sure you can contact him. Yeah. No, that's important. I'm sure that will come down. That happens. I do remember I've been married for 10 years, 12 years. I should know this. But I do remember those days of like going home and going on dating. Well, back then it was dating websites and trying to meet people or heaven forbid going to a bar or somebody, or going out with the guys on guy nights and going to somewhere and just talking to random people. That was definitely, now that I'm thinking about it, the awkward feelings coming back in. And I'm not, back then I was very introverted, probably more introverted than I am now. So that was hard. So I feel you, brother. All right. So one thing too, I have one last goal, and I guess we'll wrap this up, is unlike Dylan, I have gone the opposite direction. I have been gaining weight. This quarantine pretty much has started probably in February, probably right around quarantine started. Just eating like crap. I've tried a lot of things. I actually got a personal trainer, and for 3 months we worked out together, and it was 3 times a week, and I didn't lose any weight. I just maintained my weight for those 3 months. So I was feeling like definitely the thing I'm missing is just what I'm eating, what I'm putting into my body. I think I'm just eating too much crap. And we were doing HelloFreshes for a while, and HelloFresh is not really known for its being healthy. So I think I was just eating too many portions and snacking too much, and I'm still doing that today. So like I got down to work. I'm pretty much working out like twice a week, but I haven't lost any weight. So I think I just need to push that scale and do better nutritional food. I don't know. Do you have any advice for my 2021 goal?
I mean, I can only tell you what I did. So the Ring Fit Adventure has been a godsend. I do that 5 days a week, and I love it. So as far as exercise, you don't need a personal trainer. It's just very doable. I take a little bit of pre-workout before that. I bought a perfect pull-up that I put in one of the door frames, and I do that with a push-up routine 5 days a week, and I have an ab wheel, and then I just simply got keto meals from Factor 75. That's my whole diet workout routine. I'm starting to fall off the diet a little bit now. I'm not sure why, but I go in ups and downs, good weeks, bad weeks in terms of mental health. And so on the bad weeks, you eat like shit, and you just don't, eat it. There's only so much cauliflower rice you can have when you're not having a good day, Eric. So I'm trying to say here. But that's what I did. One thing I think, we want to believe isn't true, but is that it doesn't matter how hard you work out if you're just eating shit. It's just like, in best case, you're going to maintain where you're at. And if you're trying to make gains, and it's not always about like how good you look, right? I've actually way more than I did maybe 6-8 weeks ago. I think I got down to like 165. I'm around 170, 172. But I'm more physically fit than I was. I was just thinning out way too more. And so don't let the number define what is your success rate. Let it be how you feel, how you look, what it is. Um, and but you got the diet. It's all about the diet, man.
Yeah, that's what I'm missing, the diet part. I feel like I could. I guess I'm just need to just focus in on that. The problem is we have two kids that are eat a lot of junk foods. So we have like junk food all over the house. I mean, that not it's not all junk food. Obviously, it's good food for them. We have nutritional food for them, but it's not so nutritional for me. And I just need to get into a better habit. We also got really lazy this quarantine, and so we have been going out to eat 2 or 3 times a week some weeks, which is really hard to maintain a diet when you're eating pizza and Jimmy John's and sandwiches and a bunch of crap, barbecue, which isn't very healthy for us. The problem too is neither me nor my wife like to cook. My wife likes to cook for parties, but she doesn't like cooking on the normal weekdays because our kids are super picky, and she's also has some side projects and stuff kind of like I do, so she's really busy. So since neither one of us want to cook, we are like, okay, let's take a look at the takeout today, and we have a bunch of menus, and I'm always driving across town to buy to grab food and bring it back home. So I think that's all contributing to the diet problem. I mean, what is the one little tangent before we wrap this up? What does a single guy buy nowadays? Are you buying like frozen food? Are you like cooking up chicken every day, or
I mean, so at Factory 75 are pre-made meals. It's a little pricey doing that, and then I eat out when I take these girls to dinner, and they never see me again, Eric. That's how. I don't know, man. I don't know what I'm doing over here, but that's what I eat. It's so I stopped doing the keto meals a while back because I was getting down to like one meal a day, man. It was getting kind of scary how ketosis was affecting me. I was just like it did its job. It kicked my appetite into gear, and they're down a gear, and then I started thinning out. I fucking dropped like 30 pounds in like 3 months, and just like, yeah. But when I stopped doing the keto meals, and I started eating more normalized meals through them, my appetite came back a little bit, and I think that's also, I kind of miss it. Like I kind of miss like food not being such a central part of my life. And not that there's anything wrong with that, but like there's a, I couldn't even tell you the last time besides this point in my life I had one meal a day some days. Like it was so strange. It was so strange and not being hungry.
did you get one thing I did when I was doing the keto? I did this a few years ago, and I did the same thing. I dropped like 20 pounds right away in a few months, and it was like I felt awesome. And then the appetite started kind of going away. But the first few weeks, I had this keto flu, and I felt sick, and I had really bad hunger pains. Did you have that when you first started?
Yeah, I was looking for that because that's what everyone says, and like the 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 thing that I would say happened for me was, and I don't know if this is what people call the keto flu, but I just felt like my stomach was grumbling sometimes, and like, but that was it. And it was just like I felt like my stomach was hungry, but I wasn't hungry, and I didn't eat. And so like occasionally I might go and have some carrots or some crap like that, but that was the closest I ever got to the quote unquote keto flu.
No, I had it bad. Yeah, it was like, bleh. But once I made it past that hump, which lasted probably a week, it was like golden. I wasn't getting the cravings anymore. Those really bad food cravings, because like every day, like I probably don't eat that well. Obviously, I don't eat that well. I get food cravings after dinner. Like I'll be watching TV, and all of a sudden I'm like, I'm hungry. I'll go grab some chips or crap food. Like I get that all the time now. But I think that was like the first time in years like I stopped having food cravings all the time. I think if I just get my diet in check, I could stop, being hungry all the time and having to eat. I think also it's habit too. It's probably something mental, like I'm used to. Like after I eat dinner, I go and sit in front of the TV, or right before bed, I watch my favorite TV show, and I always grab a bowl of chips, or I grab a snack from the refrigerator. So like it's ingrained in my habit, then if I don't do it, my body's like, hey, where's the snack when you're watching TV? Where is it? So I think I'm that's what I'm fighting every day with my diet.
Yeah, it's definitely like one of those items where you have to change your habits, and it's a little easier for me. It's a house of one here, so it's it's not like there's a lot of debate about what food is going to be in the house. It's also a little dangerous because there's no debate about what food it's going to be in the house, depending on an upswing or downswing. But um, I one of the ways that I was able to stick to my diet was I went into like the cupboards, I went into the fridge and freezer, and for like 2 weeks I just fed the dogs all the crap food that I felt okay feeding them, and I tossed out some stuff. Um, they were happy dogs, man. They were getting frosted mini wheats and everything else.
That is a solid plan. We're not ready yet. Like, I have to get my wife on board with that, and she's not ready to throw all that stuff out, especially since our son is a little bit underweight, and she likes to feed some of this food to my son. But that's probably a good start to it. I know. As we go on through this podcast, I'll give everybody an update. I'm hoping that I'll be able to start shedding pounds here, and it's a really bad time to start. It feels like it's also a really bad time to start a diet right now because it's 2 weeks before Christmas and we have big Christmas meals coming up. And now we're in almost total lockdown in Reno for COVID. So all restaurants are takeout only, and the gyms now have 25% capacity, and you have to wear a mask the whole time, which is, by the way, something I noticed when I started working out. I was the only person in the gym wearing a mask, and no one was wearing a mask, and now they finally forced everybody in our gym to wear a mask, and so everybody's begrudgingly wearing a mask. So, and it just feels a little different. All right. Well, I think that's it today. Any final parting words?
Yeah, I would just say, like, we talked a lot about our own goals here, but I hope that if you're listening to this, that even if you don't know what your goals are, and this probably will come out relatively close to the new year, to figure it out. Don't just let them be some, every year I think I try to accomplish something. And if you do that and you make it, get a quarterly accomplishment or monthly accomplishment or, whatever it is. So just think about that. And hopefully we'll hear some great news about what some of our listeners are succeeding at.
Yeah, please leave a comment. Let us know, or tweet us at EricCH. Or what's your Twitter, Dylan?
Pizza Poker Guy.
Pizza Poker Guy. All right, thanks.
Hey guys, thanks for watching. If you want to find more about what I'm up to, go to dylanisrael.com.
And if you want to know what I'm up to, you can check out my website at eric.video. If you haven't already, please leave us a 5-star review on iTunes. It really helps us out. And if you do, you might even be featured on our next episode. Don't forget to check out the website at selftaughtornot.com. From there, you can sign up for a mailing list where we give away free courses and a bunch of cool stuff. And we'll also let you know when the next episode comes out. And finally, if you didn't know, we have a Facebook group. It's called Code, Tech, and Caffeine. We have over 10,000 members, and you can find the link at selftaughtornot.com. So come join us. We have tons of developers willing to help you guys, mentor you guys. Check it out. Just make sure you go to selftaughtornot.com and check out the Code, Tech, and Caffeine link. Thanks, and take care.